Hello and welcome to the video number 31 of the Godot Might and Magic VII remake. In this video I thought about doing something different than I do usually. Instead of showing the gameplay and the updates of the game, I would show how the game can be exported by Godot template export and played in the browser, eventually in each IO as well. First thing first, we have the Godot IDE here that has the project export option. When you launch it for the first time, there will be a web runnable preset already there. However, the template files needed to export will not be installed. If you select it, there will be a button to download and install the templates. Those are rather heavy, I think about 1 GB at this point. And for that reason, I suspect they do not come pre-installed with the IDE itself. Just so that the IDE can be very small and the templates can be downloaded by whoever needs them. The key option to specify is of course the export location, which for each IO must be an index HTML5 so that it can be started automatically. There are several options here. I haven't experimented too much with them myself. I suspect those that might be important could be the extension and thread support. I leave both disabled as I'm not using any extensions and I'm not sure if I do need the threads. And then I'm not sure if this will work in the browser as I hope it do. That depends, I suppose, whether the Godot itself uses threads, probably true, and if the project that you implement uses them. Mine doesn't, at least not explicitly, so for now, disable it. Next option could be the resources. For simplicity, I specify export everything there is, all of it. However, I've already noticed that it means the exported file, specifically the .pck, which I suppose are all the resources, is huge. At this point, in my case, it's 240 megabytes, which already exceeds the each IO limit of max 200 megabytes per file. Workarounds to this, I suppose, could be limit the files we export to only those that we actually use, or split the PCK file into smaller chunks. Then the scripts. This I've tried using, but I haven't noticed any difference in the developer console, whether it's compressed or text. I thought this would be easier to debug because I have some issues, but no big difference, at least not for me for now. Once we have all the settings set up, we can then decide to export it. There are several buttons here. Basically, we want this one to export the project as the template. This would just pack the project in its entirety as just the files, maybe to share with someone. So now the export, this is rather fast. I've already done it before, so I'm just exporting it straight away. Now I'm running this on Windows, and the index.html file in the file system could be opened in the browser. However, it will not be allowed to load any resources. By resources, I mean other pages, so all the other files, and that's a problem because we actually do need the resources. The workaround is very simple. The solution is to run Python local HTTP server, which I did. This is, in my case, running on Cygwin, and the default port is 8000. This means that and this needs to be run in the folder that contains the index.html file. So I basically just cd into the directory, run this command, and then it's available here in the browser in the localhost 8000. That's the address by default. I've already started the game before in the server, so just take a look what happens when I refresh it with the new package. This will now load in Godot. We can also see it in the server that there are some get HTTP calls. Basically just getting all the resources, all this stuff. So that's the game. This is now running in the browser. There are some issues with it in the game. I'll show you in a second. Most of the stuff does work, so far so good. We can create the party. There are the videos. First thing I noticed is that the loading screen in between scenes doesn't work. I'm not sure why. I need to debug it. Then, once the scene loads, which takes longer than does on my machine directly, not through the browser, which kind of makes sense. We should see more. Right. So the graphics are slightly different. I can see contrast is much higher, so that's another thing to look into. That the graphics settings are different when running natively or via the browser. Let me just rest maybe a little bit so it looks better. Yeah, slightly better. Now, this is running in the browser, so I see that the mouse lock doesn't work as nicely as it does in the other one. So let me show you this. I select my sorceress, I cast a spell. Now the spell doesn't work. I think that's the exporting part that's the difference. One of the scripts doesn't work and one does. And then, if I have this inventory here, I close it, and then my mouse is stuck. I'm now moving the mouse around, but I cannot get the mouse to actually take over the control, even though the mode is. If I do escape, I get my mouse back, and then I can eventually get the mouse back. So there's this weird behavior with mouse state in the browser versus the one in the game. Also, well, obviously, escape is not the best button to use for the controls of the game, because on itch.io, for example, this means quit the full screen, and it messes up with the game, which by default uses escape to get out of all these. For example, this one here closes the tabber, which would mess up with the itch.io export. So that's another thing to watch out for, and I will probably need to remap the buttons heavily from the original game for the web export. Right. I think that's the most important part for this. One more thing I wanted to show is itch.io, because I did export it to itch.io. Since I don't own the rights to any of the assets, this is just private, this is just for storing it rather than sharing. Let me just close this one here. And now on itch.io I have an older build, because I couldn't get the new one to work yet because of the size of the PSK file. I got the older build as well here, that eventually runs. So this is now loading the Godot engine inside the browser on itch.io page. And it should load soon-ish. Now this is the part I would probably cut the video if I knew how. Let's see what happens. So this is an older build of the game that I exported. I think this one is from, it says June. I have the newer one as well. But let me just see if that works. Let me refresh the page. Maybe this one got stuck. Yeah, I think this might need to wait for another day when it works, unfortunately. Well, I hope you liked the video, except for this part. Yeah. Worked. So that's the game in itch.io, an older version, however the graphics is the same. Not everything's gonna work. I see nothing new works. Well, thanks for watching. Eventually it works, it has the same issues as the other browser version, so I still need to fix it. Thanks for watching.